Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. Now a friend of mine has been badgering me for a while about doing a Tau army. Now I think he's more angling me to mix my Death Guard and Nurgle schemes with Tau, a bit like I did with the Sister of Battle Squad a couple of years ago. I decided not to do that. I decided instead to experiment, on this occasion at least, with some stealth effects. Now I've not done Tau for about 20 plus years. When I did do them that long ago, I did some metal stealth suit models and did a split colour scheme to make it look like they were merging in with the background. I'm doing something different with this, and this is an experiment. This is not something I've tried before, and I'm telling you now, I would do certain things different were I to do this again or translate it across a whole army. So keep watching, you'll obviously find out what those kind of things are. Now I've started off doing the basing very, very similar to how I did the basing on my Great Unclean One model that's been shown on the channel before. So I'm taking a Vallejo basing paste and I've put it on half the base, as you'll see here. In the original video I did it the whole base, we'll talk about why later. Now what I've then done is I've taken some of the Games Workshop plastic skulls, stuck them on the bases, and you'll see there what I did is also cut one of those skulls in half and glued a human skull in the first case onto the actual model, so the barrel of the Gatling cannon. You can see here I've taken an orc skull and glued an orc skull onto the shoulder, and then actually later on I glue an orc skull onto the base. Then what I'm doing is I'm kind of looking at the model and thinking I'm going to have this model with half of its lower body that's going to be using the stealth suit and blending into the terrain. So I'm literally taking that basing paste and I put it all over the bottom part of that model. This model here, I'm taking it and doing the same thing over the top part of the model. Now I'm taking kind of a slice of the model, if that makes sense, like the top torso. I'm probably covering half of it with the same basing paste that I use in the base. The rest of it we're going to cover with something else later on. So if you were doing a totally different base and you like sand or whatever, that's what you do it with. Now I've then undercoated the models. In this case I've done it with a desert yellow colour. This is to make painting white easier later on. Probably do this different again later, as we'll say. And what I'm taking now is Games Workshop Grell Earth. Now this is a crackle paint that when it dries, it sort of fragments and cracks and looks like sort of dried earth. So I've done that on the other half of the base that I've not put the basing paste on, and then I'm then putting it on the half of the half, if that makes sense. So the part of the model that I want to be merging in using stealth effects, I'd put that kind of basing paste on some part of it, and then I'm using this crackle paint on all the other parts. So that essentially if I've taken half of the model to be merging in with the stealth suit, sort of that half, a load of it's the crackle paint, a load of it's the basing material, so that I didn't want it to completely fill it up. So now when that's all thoroughly dried, I'm then just starting the standard colour scheme. Now you clearly don't have to follow this colour scheme. This is my interpretation of what was on the box of the stealth suits. White can be a fiddly colour to paint, so I've started off with this desert yellow kind of base spray colour, which makes the white go on really quite easily in a single coat. Now this is a Vallejo off-white, so I'm not going pure white. It's always best to do white, not and work up to the tone, so not go pure white straight away. Now into the black detailing, and this is why if I was to do this again, what I would probably do if I was doing a full army with actual Tau is I'd probably spray the models black and then work up with paint on the white armour, because painting the black, it does take a couple of layers to go over this, and probably a little bit fiddly. You've got to be quite careful you don't get any of this black onto kind of the white sections. So really this is a standard, as you would paint any Tau model at the moment. You're painting the half of the model that you haven't covered with the basing paste and the kind of crackle medium. So I've gone for, again, inspired by the box art. So I've taken a red colour onto the sort of face visor of the leader of the unit. Chasseur, can't remember what the Tau words are at the moment again. Haven't picked up the codex yet. It is coming out soon. I know it's very topically relevant, this, in some senses, because it is releasing. Kind of partly why I did it. Partly because I saw the unit, 20 quid for a unit of 3 stealth suits to have a bit of fun playing with effects. That I may or may not ever do again, but it seemed like a reasonable thing. And actually, if I do decide to do an expanded Tau army and change the colour scheme and things, stealth suits, I suppose, can be taken as a separate part of the army as such, and you could do a totally different colour scheme for the rest of the army. I could even decide to do a full Nurgle demonic part of the Tau, and it wouldn't matter, and these would work in quite nicely. I encourage you to do that when you're doing your hobby, and don't worry too much about branching off and doing a little squad of something else for a while. Just have a bit of fun and break the big project that you're doing, perhaps. Right, move on to a bit of metallic onto the armour. So I'm putting a few different colours into the armour, but I'm really focusing more on the kind of basing area. And the base I'm painting is exactly like the base that I did on my Nurgle Demons, sort of inspired there. So I've taken that kind of beastie brown colour, I've worked that all over the base itself, and then I've put it onto all the areas on the model where I've put that basing paste. Now I decided here, and this is something I might do a little bit different, and I'll talk about why later, but I decided that I wanted to define the gap between where the sort of normal paint scheme is and where this stealth suit effect with the materials that I've put on is as well. So I've taken the blue colour you see there, and I've basically drawn a dividing line between those two areas to sort of represent the kind of energy field that's gradually camouflaging the model. Now I did it with a sort of fairly standard brush and did it as quite a wide blue line, and I put sort of jagged offshoots on it to make it look a bit lightningy. Probably wouldn't do that again in future, see why later. Now what you see in there is a full all over wash of Vallejo sepia wash to really dirty down the model, put some contrast, and not if that's the word, but put some shading into all the gaps and cracks, and also it pulls the colours down onto the base as well. When that's thoroughly dry, it's now time to lift the model colours back up on the main part of the model. And I'm using exactly the same colours I've used already. So you can see I'll be very careful though not to go into any of the gaps and cracks, to be painting around anything like that. And also when you're doing it, this is with relatively watered down paint, probably 2 for 1. So you're almost putting a very thin wash over and going over in a couple of layers, because you want some of the colours that are now on that white metallic area to kind of show through. So it looks a bit dirty, a bit grimdark, a bit shaded. And this is how I like to paint. I like to do slightly grimdark, not full grimdark paint schemes. If you didn't want to do that, then you could not have done that wash stage, not washed the whole model and done it in little stages. Now it's really working on the kind of camouflage colours. Now I've retouched over all the colours to make the armour look nice. Now you see this is the little transmittery piece, and again this is an experiment. So I covered the whole transmitter with stuff, I covered a little bit more of the drone, etc. So I'm experimenting. So that was a dry brush of the original brown colour that I used. You can see here this is a dry brush of now a German cam ochre. I just literally picked any kind of pale brown colour from a box that I thought might bring the colours up quite nicely, using a smaller dry brush to this and very gently layering on a lighter brown colour. And I want the contrast between obviously the brown of the camouflage and the top of the model to build up. And I quite like how it's looking on camera at this point. Again, make a couple of mistakes in a minute. So again, same thing now, going up to a bleached bone colour. So again, a slightly brighter colour. It's a bone white colour from Vallejo. Onto the next stage of the base, again lifting it up. What I then did do with that bone white, very, very lightly and gently, I took it over the rest of the armour and onto the black, because I hadn't highlighted the black on this Tau armour yet. And actually, look there, this bone white colour gives a nice off-white highlight to all the black areas as well, and doesn't really show up at all on the standard white. So really happy with how that worked. Again, several experiments going on here. Now, I've taken a lighter blue than I drew that blue line in. I took an electric blue, quite a vibrant, vivid blue. And again, very, very lightly dry brush. Now what I'm doing is I'm basically dry brushing it up and down, cross, sideways, all over the place, very lightly, building the colour up incredibly slowly on the kind of margin and sort of borderlines of the camouflage effect and the standard armour. Now this is where I think I will do something different if I did it in future. The blue line that I kind of drew in that kind of darker blue before the kind of wash stage, the lightning parts of it, that kind of go off at jaggy angles, and you see some of the blue going up onto the white armour there, I probably wouldn't do those offshoots. And what I would also do is go to a much thinner brush and make that blue line a lot thinner, so it was almost barely visible. I do think at points it stands out a little bit too much. So that's what I do different. Now here's the finished dry brushing effect of that blue onto the leader model. And I think I really like how the two sections sort of merge and blend together. But like I said, I don't like the thick blue lines and the thick offshoot blue lines. Now I did experiment on the gun drone with putting a white line on top of that blue, hated it, tried to clean it off, decided that wasn't going to work because I let the paint dry too much, and re-went over it with a light blue and tried to sort of match it in together. So I did attempt that, wasn't super happy with that either. And that was just about finishing the basing off, so putting some basing tufts and things on the base, and really the models are quite finished and happy. So as an experiment, I quite like how the unit turned out. I think, yeah, a couple of bits I would do different, like I've said, but on the whole, I quite like it. And you see here, I think it works quite well. I think there's probably people that could do way better than me out there, but I think it's a nice sort of different thing to try with a squad. It's definitely taught me some little things about how these materials work onto main models. Quite like how we've got the two orc skulls showing there, and the idea was for that is if that was someone looking from above, the suit's kind of replicating the skull on the ground onto the person's shoulder. Same here with the skull on the barrel, that kind of thing. So yeah, bit of an experiment, a little bit of fun, just something a little bit different and a side topic. Will it make me start doing a Tau army? Do you know what, I did really enjoy it. Maybe do something different. We can always see. But I'm going to be back onto my normal Death Guard army for a while after this video anyway. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of YouTube jazz. And then hopefully I will see you on another video. Thanks everyone.